Mario Kart World was a long time in the making. Originally planned for the Switch 1, but pushed back to being a Switch 2 launch title due to how its ambition far outpaced the Switch 1's technological capacity. Mario Kart World eventually became the first new Mario Kart title since 2014's Mario Kart 8, a game considered to be among the best entries in the Mario Kart franchise, which is saying something because that series has a lot of bangers. So many, in fact, that Nintendo's premier kart racing franchise is probably the most consistent and beloved Mario multiplayer spin-off series, something that's very impressive considering that there are a lot of good Mario multiplayer spin-off series. Hell, at this point, I consider Mario Kart to be a better and more consistent party game than Mario Party. Personally, though, my favorite spin-off series featuring Nintendo's iconic mascot is Mario Gastroenterologist. The polyps look like little meatballs. But anyway, the point. Mario Kart World continues the consistent quality inherent to Mario Kart's long-standing gameplay formula. In fact, it's an incredibly fun kart racer with many interesting and new ideas that spice up Mario Kart's identifiable DNA, all while still being true to the spirit of the series. It's just a load of fun. With that being said though, Mario Kart World had the unenviable task of following up one of the best entries in the series, which is to say, 2014's Mario Kart 8. See, Mario Kart 8 perfected Nintendo's kart racing formula to a T. Whether discussing the moment-to-moment gameplay, the online multiplayer, the track variety, or the sheer breadth of the vehicle customization, Mario Kart 8, and by extension Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, delivered a sublime Mario Kart experience in a series with few bad installments. Like, Mario Kart 8 was so good that if someone were to say that it was their favorite Mario Kart game, we'd just all go, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. There is a lot of logic in what you say. Like, it's just not a controversial statement. We'd all accept it as a valid assessment. It's a rock fact. And Mario Kart World, with its various attempts to innovate, is simultaneously an interesting installment in the series, one that I'm overall glad exists because of how different it is from any Mario Kart title before it, all while those same aforementioned interesting features contain faults that overall prevent the game from being as exemplary as Mario Kart 8. In other words, Mario Kart World is relegated to being very good, all while just being unable to match the high quality inherent to its predecessor. However, let's start with what the game does well, which is to say its strong gameplay fundamentals. You know, because driving and using various items either to attack other players or utilize as a buff on yourself remains satisfying. There are a variety of different characters and vehicles to choose from, and many of those vehicles have their own stats and strengths and weaknesses. The racetracks are incredibly memorable. In fact, the Donkey Kong stage is a particular standout, and the battle modes add a different style of competitive wrinkle beyond just the races. Meaning that if you have played a Mario Kart title before and had a good time, then spoiler alert, you'll probably still have a good time playing Mario Kart World. However, Mario Kart World's presentation of this gameplay is what establishes this Mario Kart sense of identity, doing so for better and for worse. Better because its very differences are intriguing, and worse because I'm a Mario Kart traditionalist and I don't like change. And Mario Kart World's core uniquity is in how all of its racetracks are connected together in a broader world. The game features numerous identifiable tracks that are linked to one another via various roadways and highways, establishing an overarching world within the title. Hence why the game is called Mario Kart World, because no shit. And Mario Kart World's connective tissue is evident in pretty much every game mode. But for simplicity's sake, let's start with Grand Prix. As is Mario Kart tradition, Grand Prix is the standard Mario Kart game mode for both single and couch multiplayer purposes, where you enter a series of 4 races against AI opponents with the goal of accruing the best cumulative results over those 4 races, because if you do that, you end up being the victor. Once again, if you've played a Mario Kart title before, you probably know how this game mode works. It's the standard Mario Kart game mode. At this point, it's a law that's written in marinara. With that being said though, Mario Kart World's Grand Prix offerings function slightly differently than normal. While the first race is always your standard 3-ish lap Mario Kart racetrack, the general gist of the other 3 races is that your first lap shares the theme from the prior race, whereas the second lap sees the player traversing the earlier mentioned roadways and highways, and the third lap is set on the new track and theme. Admittedly, the Grand Prix mode doesn't always work like this, because some races have more than 3 laps and starting points, but this is the typical way that Mario Kart World achieves its goal of making its races feel like they exist in a cohesive world, which once again is very unique for the franchise. Unfortunately though, this interesting design decision does run into some problems in terms of execution. I mean, as cool as it is that every racetrack exists in the game's broader world, this sadly doesn't alter how, by meshing these racetracks together, each of these aforementioned racetracks loses aspects of their distinct identities. Like in past Mario Kart games, each track features a specific theme, like Mushroom Kingdom, castles, and the closest that a Mario game has ever gotten to promoting the LGBTQ agenda. And by the way, I mean that as a good thing. But with races that lead to different tracks, all while featuring similar cross-country roaming, where the player must avoid cars and other obstacles, the aforementioned distinct identities of the tracks become muddled together, meaning that their uniquities are diluted. And while the races within the Grand Prix mode are still fun, because Mario Kart's gameplay formula remains such a ludicrously strong foundation, many of the Grand Prix races just aren't as memorable as they were in prior games, given that the racetracks just share too many elements. It's just an unfortunate design casualty that became lost in Nintendo's effort to create Mario Kart Worlds, for lack of a better term, world. Moving on from that, Knockout Tour is far more functionable in this regard. As far as game modes go, Knockout Tour is a cross-country multi-track 6-lap race that eliminates contestants after every single lap until there are just a few racers vying to reach the finish line first. And honestly, I love Knockout Tour, mostly because it fully captures Nintendo's goal of creating this living and breathing world more so than any other Mario Kart World game type. And seeing as it's supposed to go from track to countryside to track and so on by design without any stops, my Grand Prix criticisms about the tracks needing their own unique traits don't really apply here, seeing as Knockout Tour is a long cross-country race that spans a lot of the map, which once again is by design, meaning that Knockout Tour just embodies Mario Kart World's best qualities. Furthermore, for the most part, the rest of Mario Kart World's game modes are pretty self-explanatory to anyone that has played a Mario Kart game before, which I imagine is most people that are watching this video, because I like preaching to the choir. To sum up, Versus Mode is basically a custom race for multiplayer purposes. Time trials are solo races where you try to beat your best time, because obviously. And then there's the battle modes that focus more on item usages and attacks rather than racing. The classics like Balloon Battle, no relation, where the player can endure so many hits before being eliminated. Coin Runners, where the player who has the most coins at the end of the game wins, but all the players need to be careful because they will lose coins when hit via an enemy attack. And then there's Bomb Blast, which is a game type based entirely around bombs. Unrelated picture of the Lone Ranger. Just all very fun stuff that you expect from a Mario Kart entry. Also, it's worth noting that Mario Kart World's battle mode is superior to the one found in Mario Kart 8. In fact, so much of Mario Kart 8's maps for battle mode were, for the most part, just reused racetracks with minimal to no actual distinction between how they were used between the battle mode and the racing mode, which caused Mario Kart 8's battle mode to feel more tacked on than anything else, because many of the maps just weren't crafted with cross-sections where players could converge on each other. Phrasing, boom, seeing as we could only encounter other opponents by circling around the track. If anything, the modes just didn't really feel very organic, but Mario Kart World's battle mode offerings are a few steps above this. While the maps in Mario Kart World's battle mode are also repurposed racetracks. These same maps aren't just the racetracks, but with a more competitive mode akin to Mario Kart 8. In fact, Mario Kart World's maps, just like everything else in the game, are integrated into Mario Kart World's playable canvas and thus do feature cross-sections where players can meet in the middle and traverse the battle mode maps with ease, ensuring that the action is far more fluid, intuitive, and natural. Because with legit effort, Nintendo constructed Mario Kart World's battle mode to be of a higher pedigree than what was present in Mario Kart 8, and they overall succeeded here, because Mario Kart World's battle mode is an actual extension of the game rather than an afterthought. With that being said though, some of Mario Kart World's other attributes and other game modes either fall flat on its face or just fall short of what was present in Mario Kart 8. For one thing, Mario Kart World's vehicle customization pales in comparison to what was present in the prior title, mostly because Nintendo bafflingly decided to craft Mario Kart World without them. See, Mario Kart 8 touted excellent accoutrements and bells and whistles, some of which even affected the gameplay, that the player could unlock for their various carts, cars, bikes, trucks, Mad Max, death traps, and such, to the point where the player could really modify their motor vehicle of choice to be distinctly theirs. If anything, alongside vehicles and other items, these customizable parts are rewarded to us by just competing in various game modes and are doled out in regular intervals, all very much encouraging the player to keep playing Mario Kart 8 for the long haul, which only sweetened the deal given that the game was already packaged with excellent core gameplay functionality, meaning that these options were just an exquisite garnish on top of an already delicious pie. Just don't steal a slice from Luigi, lest you get stabbed by a very angry Italian. Unfortunately though, Mario Kart World just didn't even bother to include vehicle customization, something that is just so damn frustrating as it eliminates the constant feed of rewards, which were a crucial component to Mario Kart 8's success. Sure, the player can still unlock vehicles by just playing Mario Kart World for lengthier stretches of time and earn ways to customize the clothing and headwear of their respective characters, but it's just not the same. And while I understand the argument that a lot of Mario Kart 8's customizables, that's not an actual word, but I'm making it work, affected the gameplay to where some players eventually conjured up some ludicrously game-breaking builds for their cars or bikes of choice, these types of customizable options could have still just been cosmetic in Mario Kart World, meaning that it still would have remained satisfying, all while negating any impact for the game's balancing in its competitive multiplayer offerings. It just feels like a major missed opportunity here. Sadly, vehicle customization wasn't the only thing Mario Kart World just completely botched. In fact, Mario Kart World's free roam mode, where you and your friends can just hang out and go anywhere you desire within Mario Kart World's map, is just a non-starter in terms of delivering anything meaningful to the overall experience, because aside from some basic challenges, there isn't really much to do here. If anything, the free roam mode transports the player to Dullsville. It's like visiting Nebraska, with the exception of Omaha, of course. We will always respect Omaha. And look, I understand that free roam mode is more of a social gathering game type than anything, but I'm sorry, that doesn't auto-magically mean it deserves a free pass. I mean, Minecraft is often a social gathering sort of game, but Minecraft is nowhere near as lifeless as Mario Kart World's free roam mode, and that's saying something. That game's world is made of blocks. Come on, y'all. Demand better. Have some self-respect. Now, with all of this being said, Mario Kart World has one other core attribute that I haven't really mentioned yet. One developmental characteristic that just absolutely wrecks, without question. Which is to say how Mario Kart World's races, both in terms of online modes and just offline single-player offerings, feature 24 competitors, a number that doubles Mario Kart 8's comparatively measly amount of 12 racers. Weak sauce. And Mario Kart World's large amount of competitors is chaotic in the best way. In fact, at the start of every race, everyone tries to get to the front of the pack, and by the time contestants retrieve their first items, all hell totally breaks loose, which all becomes some incredibly fun chaos. And while some might believe this is too much madness at one singular time, it is worth noting that Mario Kart World's mayhem becomes more contained as the races and such go on, because generally speaking, Mario Kart's more battle-tested player base overall end up finishing in the top 10, but given the amount of players competing, items are a true democratizer, meaning that if you're routinely in the back half of the standings, you can still utilize items to induce damage to the more talented frontrunners, even if those said frontrunners will still most likely finish the race ahead of you. Meaning that while skill remains important, even the less talented among us can still affect any given race, allowing Mario Kart World to truly be fun, even if we completely suck. Which, that definitely me. To sum up, Mario Kart World isn't as strong as Mario Kart 8, but is still loads of fun. While the game doesn't fully capitalize on its unique premise, the kart racer's strong core gameplay fundamentals remain intact, and the game's expansive world, while definitely not without fault, is nonetheless novel enough to where many of Mario Kart World's design deficiencies can be forgiven, seeing as this is new ground for the franchise, and whether or not Nintendo decides to expand on this idea and fix its respective shortcomings, or just goes in a new direction with the next Mario Kart title, I am overall happy that Mario Kart World exists, that it is its own thing, even if it overall doesn't live up to the quality inherent to its predecessor.